It's almost New Year. We have around 2 more weeks left and then it's 2023, and I just love this time of year because I'm a very goal-oriented person. Obviously, you can make goals at any time throughout the year. It could be a random Thursday, and I also do that. I don't just wait for New Year to set goals and to work on myself. But there's just something about the new year, about new beginnings, new opportunities that really want to make me envision my next year and the future. I want to make sure that I'm taking steps towards my dream life instead of just staying with the same old where nothing changes. So today we're talking about goal setting, and later on we will talk about financial goals in particular and how we can actually accomplish them. So let's start with a few general concepts on goal setting. First of all, when we think about goals, the most common areas are probably personal development, career, health, finances, relationships, and if you want to, spiritual. So what I do is I choose 1 or 2 of them to be my focus for the next year, and I will create a goal for that category. So for example, last year, my goal was to save money, so that was a financial goal. A few years ago, my focus was languages, so I put in a lot of time and effort to learn and maintain languages. So that one was actually a goal in personal development, a learning area of my life, and I did not have a specific financial goal in that year. Having these yearly focus areas helps you to really put your energy and time towards your priorities and actually achieving them, instead of having all these goals that you want to achieve and you don't even know where to begin. So out of all the areas that I've mentioned before, I recommend you choose 1 or 2 to be the focus for the next year. And if you want to set goals for the other areas as well, make sure they're smaller and more achievable. So just make sure that you're not overwhelmed and that these smaller goals do not rob too much energy of you that you would need to be putting towards your main goal instead. Okay, one more general thing about goal setting is make sure that your goals are as specific and tangible as possible. If you define your goal too broad or too unspecific, it will be very difficult to identify steps that you need to take in order to achieve it, and it will also be impossible to determine whether you have actually achieved it or not. You probably know the SMART method of defining goals. Your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And once you have defined your goal, you can split it up into smaller goals or into specific tasks that need to be accomplished in order for you to achieve your final goal. Last year, I had a quarterly to-do list or planner for the very first time, and I found it extremely helpful to stay on top of my goals throughout the year. I went ahead and distributed the specific tasks into my quarterly planner. I personally wanted to go with quarters because I feel like a month sometimes goes by so fast, and I also wanted to have the flexibility throughout the year to decide when specifically I wanted to do something. So when I was planning out my month or my weeks, then I would just take a glance at this quarterly planner and see what I wanted to have accomplished by the end of the quarter. So maybe that's also an idea for you to consider to keep track of your goals and not forget them throughout the year. Okay, now that we have talked about goal setting in general, let's go ahead and talk about financial goals. I have the feeling financial goals are often overlooked, and maybe that's because money seems a bit more difficult to grasp or to influence. Now let's look at some typical examples of financial goals, like paying off your debt, saving towards a house down payment, a car, or something else, creating an emergency fund, start investing, or getting your finances in order. These are all very nice ideas, but that's what they are. They are ideas, not goals. As we have seen before, we would need to make them more specific and measurable. So if you want to save money to put towards an emergency, a big purchase, or to pay off debt, you want to know the exact number that you will need. How high is your current debt? How much do you estimate the house down payment to be? How much money should be in your emergency fund? After determining this number, I want you to look at your money situation. How much can you realistically put towards your goal in 1 year? In my last video, we have created a budget for 2023, and if you haven't watched it yet, I strongly recommend you go ahead and watch it, because then it will be easier for you to follow the next steps. In that video, we have determined the amount that is left over when we subtract all our estimated expenses from our income next year. And that is our realistic savings amount. And if your financial goal is not your main focus, not your priority for the next year, you can keep it at that number. However, if your focus is saving or paying off debt this year, then you should consider taking some of these expenses that we have labeled nice to haves in our budget and cutting them out in order to increase your savings amount. So for this scenario, you can actually take the ambitious savings amount that we have calculated. You can also consider raising that amount with additional income. So after determining a realistic or ambitious savings goal, depending on what your main focus is, you have a yearly goal and you can estimate how long it will take you to reach your final long-term goal. So let's say you want to pay off $35,000 in debt and you can realistically save $10,000 each year and $15,000 if you're ambitious. So that way it would take you around 3 years to accomplish your goal unless you find opportunities to make extra money. And once you have your goal for the year, then you can break it down into quarterly or monthly figures as well. Let's look at the example of investing or managing your finances next. To say that you want to start investing or get your finances in order is too unspecific. I think for the goal of investing or also the money management, you want to think about all the different tasks and all the different things you want to have accomplished at the end of the year. So let's take the example of investing and let's look at smaller tasks that we can break it down into. For example, I want to educate myself on investing options, and maybe you can even set a number of videos, books, or podcasts you want to have listened to. Another actionable step could be open a brokerage account. Transfer money into that brokerage account. Decide between passive and active investing. Determine your risk profile. Decide on one or several specific funds or stocks that you want to invest in, and then set up a monthly savings plan with your brokerage account. So that's how you could break it down into more manageable steps that you can actually track and then check off in the end. If you're struggling to decide which goal should be your main focus for the next year, then write down all the goals that you have and then imagine that you have a wish that would magically accomplish one of these goals within the next 24 hours. Which one would you choose? Which one would have the biggest impact on your life? And that is your priority. That one will be your focus. So start with that one, break it down into actionable steps, make a schedule on when you want to tackle which one of them, and make sure to stay motivated along the way. That's all I have for you today. I hope you got inspired to think about what your focus should be for the next year, how you can break it down and make it more specific to actually accomplish it. I hope you liked this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I have a playlist on money management and investing if you want to check these out. Enjoy the rest of your 2022 and I will see you in my next video.